Hey there, I'm Greg Lawver, and today I'll be doing a review of the Motorola Xoom Wi-Fi Edition. Now I'll be talking about the software, the hardware, and the build quality, as well as comparing it to other Android tablets and its primary competitor, the iPad 2. So let's get started, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, well I want to start here with a general overview of the physical Xoom itself, and I do want to say the weight is a bit of a problem. It is very heavy, especially when you directly compare it to its competitors in the Android field, and the iPad 2 for that matter. Those are both very, very lightweight tablets, and most are. The Xoom is heavy. Now, there is an advantage to this, and I actually purchased it partially because of this, and that is most of the parts are metal. You'll see on the back here, when I flip it around carefully, you'll see it's an aluminum back, which is awesome. I love the metal. Yes, it's heavier, but you know what? It's extremely solid. I really like the device. I like when things are built very well, and this is definitely one of those products that's built to last. And you'll see I've had this for about 2 months now, and another complaint people seem to have is that there get to be fingerprints and the like on the back, but as you can see here, I don't know if I can get the reflection, there we go. As you can see, mine is 2 months old, and really it looks pretty much out of the box. Of course I did clean it up a little bit for its show here, but you'll notice on the back here, this is the 5 megapixel camera. It is not 8 megapixels, which is kind of surprising. I also own a Droid X, and that has the 8 megapixel camera on the back, and I was pretty surprised to hear that the Xoom only had a 5. It still does very high quality video, and it's nice, but I was still surprised to hear that it didn't have the 8 megapixels. Anyway, here you'll see you have your dual LED flash and your 2 speakers on the back, and here's your power button. Now a lot of people don't like the placement of the power button. I have grown to really like it, and it took a while to get used to having the power button here, but really when you're holding it, your thumb is resting really close to it, so it's actually a really convenient place to put that power button. We also have the volume buttons here on the side. They are very small, and they can be a little difficult to hit at times. That's probably my biggest complaint out of this, are the volume buttons, because they're just not very good. I mean, it's almost to the point, because they're set down in a groove, it's almost to the point where you have to use your fingernail to get a good press on them. On the bottom here, you'll see we have your micro HDMI, your mini USB, and your charging cable. It does not use the same kind of charging connector as the Android phones do. It does use a different one. Why they did that, I'm not really sure. I kind of wish it did use the same. But at any rate, here's another microphone that we have here. And it flipped on me. And here's your front-facing camera. As far as the hardware on the inside goes, it does have the new-ish NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor. I say newish now because they are working on a quad-core, which is pretty ridiculous. But at any rate, it does have the latest generation of NVIDIA Tegra 2 technology, which is pretty awesome to have. You can do a lot with it. The dual-core helps with multitasking amazingly. Apps launch really fast. It also has the 512 megabytes of RAM, and it comes, well, this version came with the 32 gigs of internal memory, and they did finally update the software when we got the Honeycomb 3.2 update. We got the ability to use an external SD card, so now it does accept the micro SD cards in the top here. Right in that little slot, you can put an SD card, which I do have an 8 gig one in there now that I just had sitting around. I thought I would try to use it, and it worked, so that was really cool. Now, as far as Honeycomb goes, this is the first Android operating system for tablets. This was designed specifically for tablets. You will never see a Honeycomb phone, because that does not exist. It's not designed for phones at all. It is designed specifically for tablets. And I think it's really nice. The interface they came up with is nice. It's smooth. It's a lot better than a lot of the custom launchers people tend to make, like HTC and Motorola, especially Motorola, which is why I was very happy when Motorola decided to keep this pure Google, and you get the pure Android experience. This is the only tablet that has no tampering with the operating system at all. Because Motorola and Google are kind of paired up now, they did not do anything. What Google made for Honeycomb is right here. This is pure Google Honeycomb. You'll notice some of the other Android tablets have some variations. The buttons down here look a little different. Your home, your back, and your multitask switch task screen, they will look a little different. The theme might be a little different, but this is not. This is the pure Android experience. So if you're a fan of the Nexus phones, if you like what Google does, then I would strongly recommend this one. That's another one of the big reasons I ended up choosing this one over the other ones like this, the Samsung Galaxy Tab, which is one of its biggest Android competitors. As far as apps go, there's lots and lots of apps available. Most of these, well, pretty much none of these came with the device. Pretty much any app that works on your phone will pretty much work on your tablet. Now, there are some boundaries and exceptions there. For example, if you have a regular app for your phone that's a little game and you get the same thing for the tablet, it might stretch the app to fit this entire huge 10.1 inch screen, in which case it looks really bad. But a lot of apps have the ability to switch between a tablet and a phone version. So it'll recognize you have the Motorola Xoom and download the tablet version, in which case it'll be HD, it won't have to stretch it, it'll look spectacular. A perfect example of that is Angry Birds. Okay. If we launch Angry Birds here, just as an example, you'll notice it is very clear and it's not stretched at all. It is the correct aspect ratio and the size for the screen. It plays really smoothly, which is nice. So this is running a different resolution. If I were to download the same game on my Droid X, it would run at a different resolution as this. And a lot of games are like that, but there are some that aren't, and those get stretched. But the point is you can still play them. There are a lot of games that are NVIDIA Tegra 2 only. There was a new one that just came out called, I believe it's Shadowgrounds. There's Riptide GT. There's a bunch that utilize the dual core and the physics that are implemented into the processor, which is really cool. It is very smooth again. Down, okay, I'll go over the buttons here. In the bottom left here, you'll have your back button, your home button, and your multitasking button. Now, in the bottom left here, you'll see your back button, your home button, and your multitasking button, or your switch tasks. And the reason, okay. Down here in the bottom left, you'll see you'll have your back button, your home button, and your button to switch tasks. Now, this is integrated into the operating system. So there are no, instead of having a separate area actually in the hardware for capacitive buttons, they're actually built into the operating system. Now, this can be a little annoying sometimes. For example, when you're watching a movie, if it's full screen, this black bar will stay there. You never get rid of that black bar, which I thought was kind of ridiculous when I first got it, but you really get used to it. And it's no different than having those buttons in a capacitive area. It's just, even with it taking up that part of the screen, you still get the full 1280 by 720 resolution, and it's all correct. So they did account for that. In the bottom right, you have your clock and your notifications, and if you tap that, you'll see you get this little heads-up display. And here's where you can access all of your settings. So if I tap that, I can access on the fly really quickly. I can access the airplane mode, Wi-Fi settings, rotation of the screen, brightness, screen brightness, notifications on or off, and just your general settings. Settings on the Motorola Xoom I find to be a lot of fun to play around with. Here's one of the situations where if you don't like settings, if you don't want to play, get yourself an iPad. You can pick it up and you can play. With the Motorola Xoom, they kind of want to focus on the customization a little bit more. They want you to make your Xoom yours. And you can do that by the settings, by these widgets I have here. and by the way that you set up your apps. For example, here I have all my big games here. Here I've got my bookmarks, my reader widget, SoundHound, YouTube, and then some miscellaneous apps that I tend to use a lot. My home screen I mostly have for visual reasons. I got the HD widgets widget at the top here, where you can click and get your weather, forecast, shortcut to your clock where you can set your alarm, which comes built into the Droid, and some controls over here for quickly accessing stuff like airplane mode, Wi-Fi on or off, Bluetooth on or off, etc. And then over here I have a bunch of other apps that I use a lot, another HD widgets widget, and a couple other widgets here for adjusting volumes and equalizers. Here I have Google Voice and another HD widgets widget. Up in the top left you have a very